Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, airport authorities expect more than 1 million passengers in the country's main gateway this Holy Week. Also, new terminal assignments at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport to start in April. Manila International Airport Authority Senior Assistant General Manager Bryan Co joins us in the show. And later, the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange, or PITX, anticipates about 1.2 million travelers this Holy Week. We get an update on the preparations of the PITX ahead of the Holy Week rush with PITX Spokesperson Jason Salvador live. Over 1 million passengers are expected to pass through the Ninoy Aquino International Airport starting April 1 until April 10 for the Holy Week break. Airport authorities are avoiding a repeat of the New Year's Day technical glitch wherein 65,000 passengers were affected. However, some passengers are still raising concerns over long immigration lines.
Nobody can give 100% assurance that it will never happen again. But we have put in place all the mitigating measures.
Okay naman po, smooth yung process. Kinakabahan po ako kanina, pero ngayon medyo relief na ako. Dumating ako mga 8 hours before ng flight ko.
Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have MIAA Assistant General Manager Bryan Co. Bryan, welcome back to the source. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Ma'am Pinky, and thanks for inviting MIAA again.
You're very welcome. One of the passengers interviewed a while ago said kinabahan daw siya, although it was a very short SOT, no? But she said, pumunta daw siya 8 hours before her flight. Ganun na ba dapat maniguro ang mga pasahero sa airport?
Well, we advise the passengers, of course, if they can arrive at the airport earlier so that they can process check-in and go through immigration and security. For international flights, it's around 3 hours before at least, and for domestic flights, 2 hours before. But we have advised certain airlines if they can open their counters earlier so that some of the passengers that will be arriving even earlier than the 3 or 2 hours before, they will already be able to be processed so that they can get their boarding passes, and after getting the boarding passes, they can immediately proceed to the next steps. Like for international flights, we know that there's the Bureau of Immigration where they have to clear, and then after that, there's going to be the final security screening in our airports before they head to the boarding gates, where they can actually spend time because we have multiple food and beverage shops there, as well as different shopping options. So we're trying to encourage the travelers to don't come in late or don't come in at the last minute, because we do know that at certain times of the year, such as on the Holy Week, there will be surges in the airport users, and we know it could really get busy. And as we mentioned earlier, we're projecting to have around 1.2 million passengers over this 10-day period.
Yeah, but you were saying that you advised the airlines to open their counters earlier. So are they going to do that?
Yes, actually, the airlines have committed to opening the counters earlier if possible, because some of the counters will be used by other airlines, but some of the counters that are available already for use by the next airline will open earlier. So we've actually done this last December. That's why we were able to actually manage also the December peak. So you can remember that since the pandemic, this is not actually the first season where it's going to be almost back to normal. Last December, it was also a very busy season, and we were able to accommodate the passengers that were coming into the Philippines and going out of the Philippines or going around the country. So we will be implementing some of the measures that we put in place last December to accommodate that peak, but we also have new measures in place, and in coordination with different government agencies like the Bureau of Immigration, we'll be deploying augmentation personnel during this holiday period so that the queuing in the immigration areas will be managed better.
Yeah, let's talk about the measures that will be put in place. The queuing in the immigration area, of course, that is the check-in counter. Now, I'll go to that later. One of the problems, of course, is sa immigration itself. Sometimes the lines are too long, pero I haven't traveled much, no, Bryan, so forgive me. But pagka yung paikot-ikot yung linya, it actually helps kind of shorten what is perceived to be a long line. Kasi iba yung, especially kung maliit lang yung gap, no, from the time you enter to the immigration counter. You said that the immigration will be adding more personnel. How many will they be adding and when?
Okay, so the Bureau of Immigration has committed to adding these augmentation task force that they have. I think starting by Saturday, they've committed to deploy these resources, mostly coming from the head office and from the office of the commissioner, as well as the other stations around the Philippines, where there's less traffic compared to Manila. So there will be around at least 65 to 70 immigration officers that will be redeployed to our NAIA terminals this coming peak season Holy Week. So we expect them to actually augment the current immigration officers that are deployed right now across our three different international terminals. So we'll go to the terminal reassignment later so that you can understand why we're turning NAIA 2 into a domestic terminal.
It's so important to talk about that a little later on, but a follow-up on that. They will add more immigration personnel, but are there enough immigration counters?
Yes. We've also added the immigration counters. For NAIA Terminals 1 and 2, we do have enough immigration.
Well, we're losing Bryan there on the line. He was saying that the Bureau of Immigration will be adding about 65 to 70 personnel to be able to handle the volume of passengers this Holy Week. In fact, prior to our live interview, Bryan was saying that they expect the passengers to start arriving tomorrow, Friday, or even on Saturday. My question was, are there enough immigration counters? We'll find out from Bryan. But first, we need to take a short break. We'll try to reestablish our connection with him. We will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, MIAA Assistant General Manager Bryan Co. Bryan, so we lost you on air. We are on phone patch right now. You were saying that there are going to be about 65 to 70 immigration personnel deployed. And then my question was, do we have enough counters?
Yes. Going back to that, yes, we do have enough immigration counters that are in place right now. In fact, in Terminal 3, we were able to expand the immigration area by adding 4 more immigration booths from the 26 that we have in total for the departures in T3. While for the other terminals, we don't see any issues as well in terms of the number of booths that we have. But I think what we have to address here in coordination with the Bureau of Immigration is that we have to man these booths at the right time with the right personnel, because what's happening is sometimes the immigration officers are not deployed early. That's why there's a buildup in the queuing of the passengers. That's why last week we already met with all of the immigration heads of these 3 different terminals that we have in NAIA, and we advised them about the banks or the peak hours that we have on the 3 different terminals so that they can deploy their manpower at the designated time so that we can arrest any possible surge or buildup of passengers in the queuing. But of course, we cannot avoid the possibility of having some lines. As you mentioned, what we have to do is just manage these lines, make sure we have these, what you call the SQ, the snake queue system, so that the movement is faster instead of having just a straight line. And we do have the queuing managers that are in place so that they can move people depending on, if they can be moved to a certain counter. If that other section is not so busy, let's say at the diplomatic or the foreign counters, and the PWDs and seniors can be managed properly, as well as having to deploy these airline sweepers. These airline sweepers are very important. These are the personnel that are in the immigration area who will call for passengers that are going to be boarding soon,
Yeah.
so that they can be pulled out from the line and they can be sent to the next immigration officer so that they can be processed in a timely manner so that they can catch their flight.
I want to talk about that snake queue system that you were
Yep.
referring to. There seems to be a problem with that coming home from, is it Terminal 2? Because the moment you come down from the escalator,
Yes.
the immigration is right there. I'd say
Right.
it's not even, what, 10 meters? I don't know, maybe it's about 5 to 8 meters, if I'm not mistaken, Brian. And,
Correct.
you know, that line is terrible. Especially
yes,
pag nagkasabay pa yung mga dumating na flights. Kasi ang iksi nun from the escalator down to the immigration counter. And there are about, I would say, 5, 6 only.
Yes, you're correct. I think you would have arrived at Terminal 2 if that's the description, and you could have arrived in the early morning, probably coming from the U.S. or elsewhere where all of the large flights of Philippine Airlines are used to arrive there at the same time. So, Terminal 2 was never really designed as an international terminal. That's why those immigration posts were just put in there in a makeshift manner in the late 90s to accommodate the international operations of Philippine Airlines. That's why that very shallow space between the immigration counters and that open area, it's not enough for queuing. That's why certain times of the day,
True.
the passengers even have to queue going up the stairs, right, or the escalator.
So what do you plan to do about that, given that is the circumstance and that is the limitation?
Yes. Right now, since we already moved a large number of flights of Philippine Airlines from Terminal 2 to Terminal 1 last December, we can report that in MIAA Terminal 2 that almost never happens already because they're just operating half of their international flights in T2. And eventually, as part of our terminal reassignment, we plan to make Terminal 2 into an all-domestic terminal.
There you go.
I think
So,
we'll get
Brian,
to that
let's
soon.
clarify that. Right now, what you're saying is, because I'm going to have to disagree with you when you say that baka early in the morning, 2 flights arrive in Terminal 2 and has to pass that immigration. That is already very crowded and it doesn't really look good. I mean, sometimes may nakakasabay ka na even foreigners, no, parang very surprised that such a setup actually exists. So let me clarify. First, you're saying that right now, only half of the international flights from the original are passing through Terminal 2. Tama ho ba?
It's half in terms of the number of passengers that are arriving because we've already transferred around 7,000 passengers per day of Philippine Airlines from Terminal 2 to Terminal 1 last December.
I see. Okay. And then you said that the plan is to make it an all-domestic Terminal 2 airport?
Yes, that is correct because we plan to move all of the international flights of Philippine Airlines, the remaining international flights actually starting by April 16. Some of them will move already. These are the flights going to and from Singapore, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, as well as Phnom Penh. That will be the first phase. And the rest of their flights, the rest of the flights that are operated by Philippine Airlines International in Terminal 2 will transfer to Terminal 1 by June 16.
Yeah, it's actually good we're showing that on air right now. So those are going to be the MIAA terminal reassignments because what we've gotten used to is that Terminal 2 was really a PAL, a Philippine airline terminal. At least that's how I remember it.
Yes, ever since Terminal 2 opened in the late 90s, all of us knew that Terminal 2 is the PAL hub. So it will, for a lot of us who are creatures of habit, it will get a lot of, getting used to that PAL will now be operating on 2 terminals instead of just Terminal 2.
So while we're showing this on air, also from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3, there are other airlines that will be moving effective April 16. You have Jetstar Japan. Go ahead, Brian, if you have.
Yes, that is correct. Because it's like a puzzle piece when you move these airlines around. The main goal is to turn Terminal 2 into an all-domestic terminal because we will be able to increase its capacity as well by removing all of those makeshift posts like the immigration, customs, and the others. But by doing that, we need to also make space in Terminal 1. That's why we have certain airlines that will be moving from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3 because Terminal 3 has the most space in terms of all of our terminals here in the MIAA system. It actually accommodates 50% of our total traffic on a daily basis and has around 187,000 square meters in terms of the space available. So the airlines that will be moving from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3 on April 16 will be, as you mentioned, Jetstar Asia, Jetstar Japan, Scoot, China Southern, and Starlux. And by June 1, another set of airlines will be moving from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3. These are Ethiopian Airlines, Jeju Air, Thai Airways, and Gulf Air. So these are 9 airlines that will be moving from Terminal 1 to Terminal 3 so that we can make space in T1 for the PAL operation.
And this will be, the best thing really is to again check if you're leaving, which terminal you'll be departing from and arriving in when the time comes now, because it's good to note that there will be a number of changes. One concern though, of course, you said that you're expecting at least 1.2 million passengers. This happened, this is not the first time because as you mentioned a while ago, there were a lot of travelers back in December. But comparing it to Holy Week last year rather, to my recollection, there were still some requirements needed.
Yes.
Upon leaving last year of Holy Week compared to this year of Holy Week. So, the point I'm trying to make is, baka po mas maraming umalis ngayon dahil there are hardly any requirements needed now, right? Of course, except for your ticket.
Yes, that is true. And Holy Week last year, there are a lot of countries that were still restricted. Japan was still not open. Korea was not that open. Even China or Hong Kong just recently opened a couple of months ago. So those are like Hong Kong is one of the biggest market between Manila and the Hong Kong for our international air passengers. So this is actually the first Holy Week since 2019 where most of the borders are open, both domestically and internationally. So we expect to actually beat the 2019 figures because of all these restrictions.
Because of the revenge travel.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
But in terms of days, I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell me what do you forecast to be the busiest day, because you were saying that people will start possibly leaving by Saturday.
Yeah.
Which day? From April 1 to April 10, do you think will be the busiest for the terminals?
It will be spread throughout, but the busiest could be by Wednesday afternoon and Thursday next week. That would be the busiest because not everyone will be, filing a leave between Monday to Wednesday. So the busiest day would be on those days. But what's good about this long holiday is it's spread throughout. Some people will leave by this Saturday. Some people will leave by Wednesday night, Thursday morning, or Friday, and they will still be able to enjoy 2 nights at least in their domestic destination or wherever.
Let's wait and see. And then the requirements that they need, tips to our passengers. Bryan, please.
Yes. In terms of the requirements, as you mentioned, most of the pre-COVID requirements are no longer there, except, of course, we do have still the e-travel requirement for those international passengers that will be arriving here in Manila. These are the online forms where they have to fill up and put all of their flight information as well as some of the vaccination information, which is used by our Bureau of Quarantine. But this system has been in place for a couple of months since December, and it's already been tested that they produce the QR codes once you put all of the required information. It's important for the passengers to actually fill up these forms before they depart from the foreign airport, so that when they arrive here in Manila, it's just a scan and go process with our immigration and quarantine.
Right. They don't need a yearbook.
No, I don't think they need the yearbook.
Okay. MIAA Assistant General Manager Bryan Co, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ma'am Pinky. It's a pleasure to talk to you anytime.
And we'll be taking a short break. When we return, we'll also speak with the PITX for their Holy Week preparations. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Some 1.2 million passengers are seen to troop to the Parañaque Integrated Terminal Exchange for trips to and from their home provinces for the Holy Week. The influx of passengers may start as early as Friday, the end of March. On Wednesday, Transportation Chief Jaime Bautista said that the transport sector is ready to accommodate the influx of passengers during the holiday.
Ito ay part ng aming paghahanda para sa biyaheng ayos sa dadating na Semana Santa. So lahat ng coordination ginagawa ng mga attached agencies, no? Para maging maayos itong biyahe ngayong Semana Santa.
And let's go straight to the source of the story. We have PITX Spokesperson Jason Salvador. Jason, good to see you again. Welcome back to the source. Let me already ask, it's 1 week, 1 week before the Holy Week break. Kamusta mga pasahero sa PITX? Are you seeing already an influx of passengers?
Yes, ma'am. First off, good morning. Thank you for having us again. Always a pleasure to be here at the source. Yes, we are experiencing an influx already. As early as last week, we have been receiving advance booking, reservations, and in fact, some tickets to some routes are running out to the Bicol route. But no need to worry for our passengers because we're trying to get more buses from our friendly neighborhood bus operators, and then we will issue the corresponding special permits from the LTFRB.
I'm going to have to follow up on that. We always talk about this na nagkukulang ng mga bus. And then subsequently, it's always been overly said that we are getting more permits for the buses, etc. Why is that, Jason? Paiba-iba ba ang dami ng mga tao? I mean, obviously it is, but there is an approximate and possibly an approximate number of buses that will be needed?
Right, ma'am. It happens because typically on a regular day, only a certain number of buses are given their permits, meaning their regular routes. So it's limited, and then the demand only rises during peak months like Holy Week, Undas, Christmas. That is the time that you need to augment this with additional buses with special permits, because LTFRB doesn't just give out permits to all these buses because it's not needed during regular days. That's why it's only given, special permits are only given during peak days.
Which is actually my question, because they know it's peak, and it's peak every year, and the peak season doesn't really change. I wish that special permits were given ahead of time so that hindi po nagkakahirapan sa pagbili ng tickets. But that's not with the PITX anyway. So how are the passengers? What is the volume of passengers so far the past couple of days? And when do you see it going to be busiest? Because today's Thursday, and posible, Jason, by Friday, baka mag-alisa na yung mga iba nating kababayan.
Correct, Ma'am Pinky. Expect passengers to start the exodus tomorrow, Friday, because some of them will be availing of the holiday in the first part. Since it's a very long holiday, remember that Monday is also declared a holiday. So we're seeing that and expecting that passengers might be doing their vacations on the first part, and some of them may be in the middle part, and then some of them on the latter part because it's an extended holiday. So we're seeing an upsurge. In fact, last Monday, we already had around 113,000 passengers. Tuesday, we had 103, and yesterday, we almost tallied at 100,000, 99,000 plus. So we're seeing the trend, and we're prepared, and we're hoping that it could spread out. It could be spread out so that there won't be any congestions, there won't be any problems.
But what is the normal volume of passengers on an ordinary day?
Well, now it's already high. After the restrictions has been lifted, we are seeing an influx of passengers on a daily basis. In fact, here at PITX, we experience around 90 to 100 on a normal day. But it fluctuates depending on the day. Like, for example, on a Friday, it always goes up, and then it goes down on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So for those who, sabi nyo, nagkakaubusan na ng ticket, especially the route to Bicol?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what is your advice to those listening to us, yung nakikinig sa atin ngayon na gustong pumunta ng Bicol, papaano ho kaya ang dapat nilang gawin?
Well, first off, they need to inquire kung may mga available seats pa doon sa destination na gugustuhan nilang puntahan. They could call directly the bus operators, or they could get in touch with PITX just to make sure. And then, if ever there are no more tickets available, they can make additional reservations so that we will get the number, the data, and then we could issue corresponding additional buses.
So that's when you find out that there is a demand of passengers for a particular area, and then that's when buses will be possibly deployed and they will start selling tickets. But that doesn't commit really the passengers to take that route, right? Because pag sabihin na, parang nagpapa-wait list ho sila. Tama ba yon, Jason?
Something like that, because we need the data, ma'am, to be able to determine how many more passengers and how many corresponding buses are needed for a particular destination. Because they couldn't just deploy one bus kung konti naman yung pasahero, meaning hindi naman siya mapupuno. Siyempre, negosyo rin naman to ng mga bus operators natin. And of course, they would want to maximize the potential of that trip.
And I understand that completely. But again, it leads me to my earlier question that somehow there's an estimate number. That's why, hence, there should be an estimate number of buses. Kasi parang ang hirap din magpa-waitlist tapos hindi nila alam. Pero siyempre naintindihan ko din po yung business nung bus, nung bus owners na kailangan mapuno, pagkalahati lang ho yan. Lugi po sila. Okay, how about your advice to those going to PITX? What do they need to bring? Because it seems like halos wala na ho atang requirements compared to Holy Week last week. Tama ba?
Yes, that's true. No more restrictions, actually. The only thing they need to keep in mind is to wear their face mask inside the public utility vehicles. No more checking of vaccination cards, no more other restrictions, no more tests to be shown here at PITX or in the ending destinations. So it's very light now. That's why we are expecting a heavy volume of passengers, because they will really, take this chance to go around, travel, celebrate Holy Week, and probably even go on vacations in the nearby beaches.
Yeah. So there will be an influx of passengers. Again, advising already the public, Jason saying 1.2 million possibly this Holy Week. Beginning, what is it, sorry, Jason, is it Friday or Saturday?
Beginning Friday, ma'am. Friday evening, usually when the workday ends, our kababayans would go to PITX, especially to the nearby provinces, namely Batangas, Laguna, Cavite. So that will be the start of the Holy Week Exodus.
So good luck, sir. And good luck din sa mga kababayan natin. PITX Spokesperson Jason Salvador, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.